It's great to see everyone coming in. It's a bit of a different kind of lunch and learn, but it's still quite informal. We look like many people on somewhat of a stage, but yeah, we're really here to support you. If you have any questions, just have a think on your own experience in the startup ecosystem and see how you want to engage with the session, whether with the speakers or with that little Victorian startup ecosystem map that we created for you in the back. So that is somewhat of a map of the Victorian startup ecosystem. It is something that we started with, but we'd love all your contribution to add to that map. Okay, before we kick off, I'd like to start with an acknowledgement of country. State Library Victoria acknowledges the traditional lands of all the Victorian Aboriginal clans and their cultural practices and knowledge systems. We recognise that our collections hold traditional cultural knowledge belonging to Indigenous communities in Victoria and around the country. We support communities to protect the integrity of this information gathered from their ancestors in the colonial period. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, who have handed down these systems of practice to each new generation for millennia. Quick intro to the session. The session is titled Ecosystem Mapping and Self-Direction, and the goal is simple. It's to explore how founders like you all can navigate Victoria's startup ecosystem with more clarity, confidence, and intention. This session won't cover everything in the ecosystem. No single conversation could. That's something that Shirin and I can agree on. But instead today is a bit of a collective effort to try and get somewhere with this. We'll be drawing on the insights and experiences of our wonderful panel who have been through accelerators, pre-accelerators, grants, investment conversations, design programs, and more. And just as importantly, we'll be drawing on your own experience and knowledge of the Victorian startup ecosystem. So as I mentioned, Shirin and I have already created an ecosystem map behind you, just on that marble wall there. But together we're going to build on it, a working, growing picture of the programs, opportunities, and pathways that support founders at different stages. This can include accelerators and pre-accelerators, angel groups, syndicates, VC funds, grants and government programs, meetups, events, community groups, and any other supports you found helpful in your own journey. The idea is to create something practical, founder-informed, and genuinely useful, a map shaped by lived experience that you can refer back to and contribute to after today. So bring your knowledge, your curiosity, and your questions. This is a shared space for learning, discovering, and making sense of an ecosystem that can sometimes feel a bit fragmented or overwhelming, but becomes far more navigable when we map it together. At the end of the session, please take a moment to fill up the feedback form. So we'll have a feedback QR code on the screen there, but there's also a number of QR codes on the desks. Your feedback is really important to us, so please take a minute to do that. Right, let's get started. Introducing our panel. Sabrina Long is the founder of Anaxis Maps, a disability tech startup that captures accessibility data for venues across Australia. Her journey started with building a marketing agency, and now she's passionate about turning social impact projects into sustainable and scalable solutions that create lasting change. Anaxis Maps began as a grassroots initiative inspired by lived experience and has grown into a nationally recognized community-led data platform backed by LaunchVic, Vic Health, TAC, and the Melbourne Accelerator Program. The platform empowers councils, universities, and corporates to collect, verify, and publish accessibility data at scale, while providing meaningful employment opportunities for people with disabilities. Please give a round of applause to Sabrina. Dr. Sam Donegan is a familiar face to many. He is a clinician turned entrepreneur who combines his medical background with deep technical and AI expertise.
Sorted!
Yes, that's it. To improve access to disability and healthcare services across Australia. He's the founder of Support Sorted, an AI-powered platform that connects NDIS participants with available clinicians, reducing long wait times and helping families access evidence-based care much more efficiently. Sam also serves as a vice president of Melbourne's leading AI community, MLAI, which is on a mission to create 1,000 Australian startups through education, collaboration, and innovation in artificial intelligence. Please round of applause to Sam. And Shirin. Shirin is my colleague. Shirin Brewer has had 15 years of experience across startup ecosystems in Europe, Asia, and Australia. She's a former founder and ecosystem builder. She now leads programs across Victoria's startup sector, such as Study Melbourne's Future Founders program and StartSpace's Flip the Pitch, designing with a founder's lens to drive inclusion, innovation, connectivity, and meaningful outcomes for diverse entrepreneurs. Please help me welcome Shireen. And lastly, I will be the moderator today. For anyone that doesn't know me, I'm the community lead here in StartSpace. I'm always here to support you. I won't say too much about myself. So we'll press on and we'll get to Q&As a bit later. But I'd like to kick off, so the way the session is going to flow is we'll start with the founder journey and self-direction, and then move on to ecosystem mapping and support pathways, before then talking about connections, mentorship and community, strategy, growth and learning, and then personal growth and mindset that underpins this entire journey. I'd like to kick off with a question to our panel. So if you could each tell us in 60 seconds, if possible, what's your personal journey into founding your startup and what set you on this path?
Yeah, hi everyone. I feel like I still need to greet everyone. My founder journey, I think, started with me being in disability support work. I never studied anything around business or I'm not a technical founder as well, but grounded in lived experience very much, where I cared for a friend who was quadriplegic, and then I learned a lot about accessibility and how it's not really spoken about, and my mission for my startup is to create better outcomes for people with disabilities. And along the way, I found that venues are missing out on a lot of customers. They're not providing their access information because 1 in 5 people live with a disability here in Australia. So that's a huge missed market, and that's where I feel like I can bridge the gap. Yeah.
Thank you. Sam? Thank you.
I started my journey when I was working as a doctor. Working in a hospital is very tough. There's a lot of antiquated systems, everything's broken, and every year kind of more and more gets piled on top of clinical stuff. So I just felt like something was wrong, so I left, gave myself 6 months, tried to disentangle myself from the identity that I'd cultivated as a doctor for my whole life, and then found I was really drawn to tech. So started building websites for people on Airtasker, and then my co-founder came along and said, I've got this great idea, can you please build my website? And that's where I started.
Hello everyone. Before I started here at StartSpace, I was actually a founder myself, so I was one of you. And yes, I worked and lived in 5 different startup ecosystems. So I'm German, yay, Berlin. So I worked in Berlin, afterwards in London, then Singapore, then Perth, and now Melbourne. And the reason why I am working now with StartSpace is because I want to create events and collaborate with other organizations, with programs that I would love to have seen as a founder. So that's me.
Yeah, thank you. How did you find your way in the early days when you didn't know when or where to start? That question goes to anyone. So if anyone wants to answer, just put your hand up and we'll pass you the mic.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so how did you find your way in the early days when you didn't know where to start?
I think in the early days, this was really difficult because I undermined a lot, my ability to do things, because I was a student at the time when I started in Access Maps. I felt like I had no work experience, I didn't know anything. But what I decided to do as my first step was to sign up for a pitch competition, not knowing how to pitch and everything. And I embarrassed myself really badly on that stage because I did not expect there would be 100 people watching that pitch. And then I had pretty harsh comments afterwards as well because I had no idea what I was talking about. But that really pushed me to the deep end, and then having those harsh comments and really pushed me to feel like I can prove people wrong, and that's what motivates me, is that feeling of I can prove everyone wrong. And that's where it really gave me that push. And then I realized there's a lot of resources in this startup space to help me get there. Yeah.
I personally resonate with that. I think one of my biggest learning points being a founder myself was getting on stage and pitching. It was so nerve-wracking. You just never forget it, but it changes everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes everything. The first time I pitched, I forgot how to breathe on stage. I don't know if it have anyone happened to you where you just breathe at the weirdest spots. It's like, today I am going, and like 100 people's eyes staring at you. So yeah, but push yourself in the deep end is always a good place to start, I think.
Yeah. Thank you.
When I started, I made the biggest mistake, and I hope nobody makes it, but I had the idea, we'd somewhat validated that this problem would be good, and I went away into my hole and I started building this awesome tech for like 6 to 9 months, and I just built and built and built, and I made sure all the corners were rounded, every like piece of copy was like perfectly written, and then we launched, and then obviously like nobody used the website. So something that pointed me in the right direction was one of the mentors I had at Monash Generator Accelerator program. And after I came to him, I was like, look at my awesome website. And he's like, great, put that in the bin, let's go and start again. And then that was a big lesson that I had to learn.
Yeah, so I love events. So whenever I was new to a startup ecosystem, I just checked what events are on, and I just threw myself into the cold water and attended. And yes, it feels nerve-wracking because you don't know anyone. Best tip I can give you, get an event buddy. Just show up together, but just go and network.
Go and get me to be an event buddy. I'd love to be on board.
The next question, we'll start with you, Sam, but have there been times when you felt lost in the ecosystem, and how did you reorient yourself?
Constantly. I think being a founder is tough because unless you're doing a program, unless you have accountability, friends or mentors or whatever, sometimes you're not sure what the next step is. And especially if it's your first startup and you haven't done it before, you're really not sure. You haven't maybe an idea, but it's always like, oh, what should I do next? Like, what should I be doing? And after a while, you might get embarrassed about constantly asking people. But I think this is my second startup now, and you get used to seeing what the steps are. The biggest thing that helped me was learning about UX. UX is a really interesting, thorough way to design a solution, make sure it's fitting the right problem from the ground up.
Anyone else would like to share anything on that? Yep. So we'll just move to the ecosystem and your experience, what kind of events and programs that you've done, or accelerators or anything. So which programs, accelerators or incubators have you participated in, and how did you decide that they were a right fit for you?
I can go first. In the beginning, I felt like I just applied to anything because I was at a point where I didn't feel like a lot of programs would accept me, so I just applied for everything. So the smallest programs from like a very small council community one was my first one, but it helped me really like feel like I have a community. It's been 3 years since I joined that, and I still go back to it, and they're like a tiny community where they literally just cook food for each other and talk about just like from how to, write an invoice. Like it's so early like that, but I needed that at the time. And then afterwards, I joined a program by Remarkable, so it's a disability tech program, so it was more specific to what I was doing. So that's when I got more specific help around what I needed. And then I did Civics Labs program by LaunchVic and Vic Health, and each year they had a challenge prompt, and that prompt was about accessibility at the time. So I was like, okay, that's perfect for what I needed. And afterwards, I did the Melbourne Accelerator program most recently. So I think deciding what the right programs fit for you depends on what you're looking for. I think equity-free funding is always like something that does draw me in. I can't really deny that. But secondly, also mentorship and how much time it takes you to go to those programs also make a difference. Like, does it require you to take a lot of your time out to be there in person, and is it worth it for you at that moment? It's also something I deeply consider as well. And I think mentorship is the biggest one. Like, what kind of network they can connect me to that's relevant to my goals.
And how did you hear about these opportunities? So you started with your own kind of local network community. How did that kind of develop into a bigger roadmap? How did you hear about the opportunities?
In the very beginning, it was definitely just being at networking events. My first pitch, when I did it, like someone in the audience came up to me after. They were like, I want to help you. Because clearly I didn't pitch very well, but that was where I got my first one. So putting yourself out there was like the first thing. Second thing, I think it's still like being in the ecosystem. It's being connected to the people in your space, because once I'm more connected with people in like the startup ecosystem, like people send me like lots of stuff around programs and grants, like anything they see it relevant, I get almost sent to it. And I think it's just a natural part of being connected to the community who all want to help each other. And I send all my friends like opportunities that I see as well. Why are you laughing?
The last program we did was like an equity-free called MAP from University of Melbourne, and it was actually standing right there.
Melbourne Accelerator Program.
Yes, the University of Melbourne Accelerator Program. It's like 20K equity-free. Really good program, probably one of the best, I think. And I was standing right there, and it was 11 a.m. And I was talking to Sabrina, and she said, "Oh, did you apply for MAP?" Like, this is how these things happen. Like, someone in the space will just be like, "You should apply for this thing because it's appropriate for you." I think the thing closed at 12, and I was like, shit. So I like quickly like went away, hacked together an opportunity. So yeah, that's how we became friends, I think.
So Sabrina told you about it, and then what happened? You both applied?
She'd already applied because it closed in an hour, and then I was like, ugh. So quickly hacked together my, got ChatGPT to write up a proposal. So here we are.
And like,
Result?
like when I told him, I was like, oh, I'm giving away a spot like in the startup program that I really want to get into. But when I got in, I was so happy, and going into the program and seeing you there was so funny.
So you both got in?
So we both,
That's
and
amazing.
like there was like 11 spots out of like 120 plus applications. So it was, I felt really grateful that I got in, but you got in as well.
That's such a wonderful story. I love
I remember
it.
thinking, how the hell did Sabrina get in?
And that's really a
I was
reminder.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah, that's a reminder to everyone in the room. Really share information with each other, connect, come up, talk to each other. It does make a big difference. Sam, what programs have you gone through or participated in?
Yes.
And how did you hear about them?
I always do heaps of programs, especially early stage. Later stage, when you start making revenue, it doesn't make as much sense to. But early stage, it gives you accountability, gives you a cohort, a community, gives you introductions, sometimes free money, free exposure, free marketing, free everything a lot of the time. All the universities have their own startup programs that usually give equity-free funding. Usually you just have to be an alumni of that university, or if you want to do MAP, if you just have like a social cause, they have a social pathway as well. There's also some of the investor groups. So Blackbird has StartMate. Some of the, like there's Galileo, they have a program. Antler has a program. They are a little bit different. They're equity, so you get 100, 200K funding, usually a valuation of about $1.5 to $2 million. And then they take a chunk of your equity. So you are giving away a piece of your company to do that. And typically the valuations are a little bit low. Not something I'd recommend for serial founders, but for first-time founders, super helpful. Just being around investors, they're a bit more, if you're anything like me, and I think in the health profession, we're often just like, we'll just do this for free, just because like we want to help people. But investors are like, no, you got to charge people and charge them the max price to be sustainable. So it helps to have kind of people like that with differing opinions, different values to kind of help you learn the business side of things too. But yeah, I've done almost every program. I think way too many programs. So come to me if you want to chat about programs.
It's a really interesting fact because, I feel it depends on what stage you are in. And Sam, you highlighted that, specifically when you're an early stage founder or you are new to an ecosystem. Programs are brilliant to build up, your networks, make friendships, as you can see here. So it's really, great. No friends? No, okay. Buddies. However, every program needs your time. And every program you participate, you lose time to work on your business. So be wise which program you choose, and also whether you are an early, like a first-time founder, or you have founded a couple of businesses before. Because then, let's be honest, a lot of programs, they repeat the topics. But yes, I see a lot of people who are hopping programs. And let's be honest, it's because of the free funding. And it's normal. But there's also a perception out there, right? So be careful which program you choose.
That's great advice. Because it is true. I think often founders are program hopping but it's really about road mapping that and doing it strategically, which we'll get to in a bit. But quickly on grants and equity-free grants and government funding, council funding, what are some programs or grants that you've received, and what was that experience like?
So I'm a not-for-profit startup, so I decided to be a not-for-profit because I found that getting funding through grants was more easily accessible for me, and I don't need to give out equity compared to taking investment for like where I need to get to. So I think I'd say I had a total of 150 grand in grants in total, and I'd say 80% is from being a not-for-profit and 20% is through startup funding. And do you want me to touch on both a little bit?
Sure.
I think the biggest grant that I got was from TAC, and it was a 50 grand grant, and it was really specific to what I was able to offer, which is an innovative solution, a new innovative solution to help people with disabilities. So that was really specific. It was also a very hidden grant, like they did not promote it at all. It was a person who worked at TAC knew a friend, and a friend told me. So there's like lots of hidden grants like that. And that was the biggest one that I've got. And then but I think the startup ones were also a fair share, which is mostly from startup programs. But I think City of Melbourne just released a 25 grand grant for new startups, and all you have to be is based in Melbourne. So there are lots of startup grants for there, but usually they have really specific outcomes that they look for. And I think I want to touch on just biggest mistakes I see with people applying for grants. I think A is being overly emotional attached to the grant outcome, where people spend like weeks on one grant. And to be honest, most likely you're probably not even statistically going to get it, even if you have the perfect application. So I think the first thing is look out for all the opportunities that you feel like you can fulfill them in return for value, because they're usually seeking for something. So for example, I applied for a grant for a bank, and I can clearly see the way they ask questions, like, are you willing to put our logo on your PR material? So it's clear they want this to be a public program that is seen in the public, even though they don't necessarily say that in the eligibility. But I think just being smart on thinking the person approving this grant, if it helps them look good on their role, to give that to their manager and say you have fulfilled what we want as a company and you can help support that, that means that it's a good application. And don't overthink. I feel like people get quite obsessed with their own solutions and answer literally about the questions. But I think just tailor it. For example, for me, I'm talking so much about exposure and the exposure I've had in the past for my startup for this specific grant, so that they can feel confident that, yeah, my logo will get out there after I give you that chunk of money.
A super quick hack for grants as well that we use at MLAI is if anyone has a ChatGPT Plus account, there's a thing called Pulse, where you can just basically tell it every day, I want you to go out and do a search and then update me in the morning about what grants are available. I found that really useful for finding those kind of hidden ones. Yeah.
I have a secret one too. I have a secret a finding grant thing that I kind of gatekeep, but I'm happy to share here. Because I found Smarty grants really difficult to use. But there's a City of Melbourne grants finder, and they have the one, it's not only specific to City of Melbourne, they do every types of grant available, I think in Victoria, that includes all startup grants, or even grants that, you apply, they give you a spot on the radio. There's lots of grants for that too. It's not, you don't get money, but you get a spot for a marketing spot. There's lots of opportunities. City of Melbourne website grants or something. It's a really good platform.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
I want to share with you as well. So the Australian government has a page dedicated for grants, and there's a filter per state, and it's called literally business.gov.au/grants and programs. And then you will see it. It's on our map. Just have a look.
Thank you. And Sam, what grants have you received, applied to?
I'm probably not the best one for grants.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the time I just go for investor stuff. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
You one?
I have one. So
Yeah, sure.
when I was new to Victoria, we participated in the City of Melbourne Open Innovation Challenge. And that was really cool because we said, look, it gives us trust, City of Melbourne, cool. And also we spoke to a lot of subject matter experts. So for us, that was a win-win situation to participate. It's like an industry challenge.
And a question to everyone, did you find that some programs worked better for you than other programs, and why?
I found there's a really big mix of these like startup programs. There's a huge difference between like the really, really good ones, and I'd probably say MAP is probably one of the best ones I've done, but to all the way down to just the ones that are doing the same thing, like you do a business canvas, you meet like once a week, and yeah, anyway, there's a huge difference between the really, really good ones that are like hyper-focused, push you in the right direction, and the not so good ones, and that can be make or break, and it's pretty hard to determine what's what at the start. So yeah, just something to be aware of.
What was it about MAP that really stood out for you and was useful?
Yeah, two things. MAP, and like I do like a bunch of other programs. I promise I'm not sponsored by MAP or anything, although I am wearing this, yeah. So they have, basically it's just like you have 2 days just in the morning per week, and then the other rest of the week is just like get shit done. So they understand that like you're working on a startup, so we're just going to take a little bit of your time each week to kind of like upskill you or whatever. And then the way that they do accountability was really good as well. So basically it's kind of light touch, but at the same time very directional. So they'll point you in the right direction, they'll give you help if you need it. They managed to get both me and Sabrina on the news, so like they have a lot of PR contacts. Whereas other programs, yeah, are more, I'm not going to name them, but yeah, more it's like, it felt a little bit too airy-fairy, like let's meet once a month, and then let's do the business canvas for 3 months in a row, and then finally get that perfect. It's like, no, I feel like you just need to be validating, prove this thing is going to work, move on to the next thing. If it doesn't work, kill it. It's like very ruthless, and that's typically how I like to learn, and I think that's how startups kind of need to function.
I think for me, I think mentors make or break my experience for programs. I've been in a program where I had a really good mentor, and then my friend who also did the program had not a really good mentor, and she hated the program while I loved the program. So I think maybe the takeaway is like, if you feel like a mentor is not working out for you, just ask the program manager to maybe switch out a mentor, because they're really critical.
How does a mentor work or not work for you? How were you versus your friend's experience able to detect that that person is a mentor, I should just kind of follow suit, versus this is not really working for me?
For me personally, I think each person's definitely different, but me personally, I know who's a good mentor if they ask me questions rather than saying things to me. So people who ask me like, what are your goals? Like a lot of people try to push me in a certain direction, and all your businesses can be pushed in 10 million directions, and it's about what you decide and what your goal is in the long term. So good mentors always ask you, like, what do you want out of it? Like, when you're struggling to make a decision, they remind you of your bigger picture and your goal to get you to go to where you want to get to. Whereas, like, the not so good mentors that I've had always, like, hear my idea and already tells me, like, 10 opinions that they have, that because maybe their goal is to make lots of money and they project that on me, or their goal is to like be an AI and then they project that like you should do this instead and completely pivot your business. I've gotten that a lot, but I'm like, you don't understand. Like I have a very personal, like we all have really personal relationships with our startups. It's our baby, and we have a specific vision that we want to achieve that might not look the same to other people.
Authenticity suffers for that. They are bureaucracy.
Annie.
Yes, that's very true.
All right, just to add to that, yeah, one thing I did not expect is when you got something, one thing that's really weird is sometimes people just reach out to you because I think exactly what Sabrina just talked about, they just want to talk at you or like tell you, oh, you should do this, and it's so strange. I feel like if you ask people for advice, if you ask people for mentorship, if you ask people questions, they will give you an answer. So you really need to be clear and very careful about who you actually ask. And a good mentor will not give you the answer. They will typically help you, ask you questions to kind of like get you to come to the answer on your own. But yeah, it's just weird. You'll probably find once you start taking off that people they book you for 2 hours and they just sit there and they talk. And you're like, why am I even here? It's so weird.
Totally. And on top of the mentors, I think really good programs I participated were about the cohort itself. Because I remember back in WA, I did a program where we met outside of the program. And Sabrina, I know you mentioned that before. You also participated with other peers at pitch competitions, and we literally kind of boosted us up. And we created this really strong peer-to-peer network. And I'm still able to call them and say, hey, what do you think about that? So yeah, the cohort made a difference for me on top of the mentors.
Yeah, it's a good segue to talking about community briefly. So, how have communities such as StartSpace supported your development, or you as a founder, or any other communities out there being part of a community?
I feel like it's really essential. Whenever I have a startup, I always just try to work in public, because especially if you're looking for a co-founder or looking for other people to like work on this business with, what inevitably, every startup matching event, I've never found a co-founder, but if you just rock up to the same place every day, you see the people that are hustling, and you get to kind of know how people work, what their work style is, what their work ethic is, what the communication style is, and then inevitably one of your things that you're working on kind of dies or whatever, and then that person is looking for something, so they might join you. That's where I've seen all of the lasting co-founder relationships actually happen, and I think co-founder relationships are so hard because I think it's harder than a marriage sometimes, so finding somebody that it takes a long time to like build that relationship and build that trust. So that's how I would do that. So I would say essential. And it's really lonely being a founder. So even if you have other people on your team, other employees, so being able to do it with other founders is essential.
Any tips for founders trying to find their tribe or just expand their network effectively, retrospectively, looking back at your experience?
Attend StartSpace events. Hello. Always, right? So yeah, definitely find your own tribe, join a lot of events, and not only our events, there are heaps of great program and event programmers out there. So for example, Megan does a really great Aussie Founders Club. Check them out, follow her on LinkedIn, subscribe to her newsletter, and do that with everyone out there, right? Follow Sam, follow Sabrina. They literally post on LinkedIn what they are about to do, and they share it. Know the kind of people who are well connected in the Victorian ecosystem. Just to name drop some, Will Richardson from Overnight Success, right? So he's a really good one to follow as well. But also follow newsletters, subscribe to them. So it's really crucial.
Thank you.
Super quick show of hands. Who actually has their own startup that they're working on right now? Who is kind of startup adjacent, where you know you want to be involved in one or thinking about starting something, but you don't have something quite yet? Couple? Okay. Another thing that's useful is I find hackathons really useful. It puts you in a really high intensity environment with teammates, so you get to work with other people. You get to like make friends, make potential co-founders. There's usually a prize at the end. Sometimes you also come out with you learn a lot about a problem space, so then you can come out with like a cool idea for a startup as well. So I really like hackathons.
We might pivot into strategy now. What are some strategies that helped you move from ideation to building actual traction in your startup?
I feel like my experience, I think it's so specific to me because I personally find fulfillment through a mission. And I think in the beginning when I started my startup, it's always that typical mindset of like, there's a problem, I have a solution, but I have no idea like if anyone's gonna pay for it. There's a lot of free solutions in the world that people wouldn't pay for it. So I came in with that excitement and mindset, but I realized I wasn't going anywhere. And I actually had this mentor in the Launch Vic program. She told me like, what is your mission? And I was like, oh, I want to create better outcomes for people with disabilities. And she's like, yes, and there's 10 million ways you can get there, and then your current way might not be the best way to get there and scale the vision that you want. So yeah, at the point when I decided that for me to scale impact means I need to scale financially, was a way for me to think about business, like my business model in a way that also makes me fulfilled. Because if I'm the type of person, if it's just for the money, it's hard for me to feel fulfilled. So tying that with impact and mission helps me so much.
And I find that that could also be helpful because often founders can get emotionally attached or connected to the specific solution, whereas if you have a mission that guiding North Star, then the solution can pivot and change to kind of meet that mission eventually.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the people that I've spoke to who did well in startups, like there's no doubt that they've done sort of pivot or a huge pivot at some point to make sure that it works out. So I feel like if there's a calling for you to do a pivot, really seriously, like consider that, even though that's really scary. But, you know, it has, like if you want to get to where you want to be, you just have to let go of a lot of things.
And you mentioned previously that I think especially early days, you used to be maybe more guided by your intuition than strategy. What was that experience like? So taking it step by step versus kind of understanding, having more of a bird's eye view and being more strategic about going on with your startup?
I think initially it was just guided by very personal feelings. Like I feel like I'm helping people, therefore like I'm doing a good job. But then I think step by step, I think I just lacked tools and resources. And even though like the tools and resources, like in, you know, programs they give you, it sounds like very just to like, you can just do it and not apply it. Like it's really easy to do like a business model canvas, do a stakeholder mapping and not actually apply it. But actually, I feel like for me, doing the stakeholder mapping helped me so much to identify someone who's experiencing the problem who I've never thought about that would be willing to pay for it. So really lean into the tools people give you and it helps you kind of stay away from that emotional side.
Thank you.
There's two things that I think are critical. A lot of the time people think when you look at a startup like, they've got this awesome, really smart developer or they've raised $10 million or whatever. Like those are the things critical to success. But what I've learned is there's two things that are more important to that. One is probably, again, UX. So making sure you actually got the right solution to the right problem. And the other one's actually project management. So if you think about it, I know it sounds, and that probably sounds really boring. I certainly found it boring the first time I started, but now I'm like totally all about it. If your goal is like up here and you're kind of down here, you're floundering in the dark, you're not really sure how to get to the goal. Project management helps you break everything down into like chunks of 2 weeks. So you work 2 weeks and then UX helps you adjust your direction. So rather than keep just working and working for months and months going in this direction, when your goal's up here, being an expert at those two kind of helps you go this way and then readjust and then readjust and then readjust until you could finally hit that goal.
Talking to your customers, I think never stop talking to your customers. Always make sure you're not building on your assumptions, and even when you have your product and you're happy with that, please always go back to your users, ask them. And it's been really interesting because when I was a co-founder, our business model completely shifted. And how I've done that by speaking incognito to a lot of stakeholders in the recruitment space. So when I say incognito, I literally, hacked myself into the meetups of the recruiters in Victoria and just, went to this meetup, spoke to them, and then I disappeared into the bathroom just making some notes. And yeah, so that's how I found those insider knowledge.
And Shireen, on that, so from your experience also as a program designer, what are some mistakes that founders do when they're navigating these programs and the ecosystem?
Well, it depends on what stage, right? But there are, as Sabrina mentioned, usually you get a lot of great tools, but again, it comes back to time. You need to apply it for your own business. And a lot of time, we run out of time. So really make sure to do your homework and apply what they teach you in the programs and ask questions. And also ask effectively if you can be introduced to someone. So those people running programs, they know some other great connectors in this startup ecosystem. And potentially also your first paying customer.
So obviously looking at your time as an investment, these programs as an investment, as opposed to just like applying and celebrating.
Totally.
Getting in.
Yeah. So spend this time wisely. Use it 100%.
Yep. Sam, mistakes along the way. Any key mistakes?
Yeah, one, building without validating is the biggest mistake I often see founders make. So spending your time building on a solution, because solutions are exciting, problems are kind of, nobody wants to go out and talk to 100 customers, whatever, but that's what you have to do. Fall in love with the problem, not the solution. Second is, actually, I'm going to talk about the end. So sometimes it's really easy to get emotionally involved. Oh, sorry.
I might just pause you there.
Yep.
So how did you validate, or how can founders validate?
Yeah, you have to do first principles thinking. So not relying on assumptions at all, only relying on what you know to be true and what you've proven to be true. And pretty much it's going out and just talking, learning how to do a UX interview. So how to ask questions to people and users without putting words in their mouth. Not asking questions like, would you buy this? Because a lot of the time people they want to make you feel good. So they'll be like, yeah, it's a great idea. When in their head they're thinking, hell no. Knowing how to price things, basically just going out, learning the right questions to ask people. If you just learn about how to do a UX interview, if you want to know what to price something, learn about the toothbrush test. You can really get down into it and figure out exactly what you need to build and validate before you start building anything.
A nice book to read is The Mom Test. So definitely read that.
The mum test.
MOM.
Yep, thanks. And there was a second point, Sam?
Yeah, one thing...
Second mistake?
Second mistake, I often see founders falling in love with this idea and getting wrapped up in it. And then there's this thing where you can be like, I just need to do the next thing. And if I just build the next feature, it'll be the next unlock, and then this thing's going to take off. But we can often do as humans is get stuck in that process for a long time. So knowing when to kill your baby it sounds as confronting as it actually is. That's a really hard thing to do, and you need to have mentors that can help you with that.
And that's great wisdom also that Scotty Allen, the founder of the product bus, always echoes. Keep an eye out for almost killing your idea or ensuring that it's viable, or knowing when it's not. Sabrina, any key mistakes?
Yeah, I think similarly, just wasting a lot of time on things that shouldn't be taking my time. I think, again, testing something shouldn't take really long. It should be bare minimum. Like in the past, I would struggle on whether to put a circle or a triangle on my website as so that it looks pretty, and I would stress about it for 30 minutes.
Does anyone resonate with that? I feel like I can.
Just the tiniest thing, my social media posts, it has to look all pretty and polished, and the amount of times, and also my developers at the time as well, we just sat together. None of us were UX UI designers. We were just going on Canva doing stupid things, and at the end we just hired a UX UI designer to make things much faster. And even though it feels like you're paying people to do it, but you're paying people to take time, your precious time away to do that, do something that they're skilled in. But now, when I test something, recently I was testing whether I wanted to push a new service, and I got 2 people to work with me, did a really quick sprint. I don't know if that's the right word, but for 4 weeks where we just pushed a program out on LinkedIn, but the program didn't even exist. We just kind of made it up and see how many people would sign up to the form, how much buzz we could create in 4 weeks. So we had, I think, 12 corporates sign up through a form, and that's when we're maybe we should develop a program and actually spend time to do it. So that didn't take us more than 4 weeks, and we spent maybe a day a week to do it as well. So there's ways to test rapidly, and I think Sam can touch more on that.
Sorry, I don't want to cut you off. I was just trying to signal to Amir. There's one super thing that's really changed over the last couple of years, and that's AI. So by this stage in my startup, I usually would have hired 2 to 3 other people. And it is good to hire people, people are the best. Sometimes it can be expensive. If you're in a non-profit and you can get in co-founders, that's obviously the best way. But what I want to say is the game's changed dramatically, and maybe a lot of the stuff that you might have heard about startups or how to do it, previous books, they might not be obviously the lessons are usually still relevant, but they might not be as relevant. So usually I would have probably hired about 2 to 3 people to get to the stage I'm at now, but now instead now I'm just punching out these AI agents that are cheap and they just do this boring work over and over again. But knowing how you can use AI and where you should use AI, and then knowing where not to or where it's not going to be good is really important too.
Yeah, and engage with MLAI and the AI building sessions that we do on a monthly basis. So come in, speak with a group of AI experts, developers, engineers, and end users and see what works for you, what AI tools can solve your problems. Shirin?
I also would like to do a quick shout out to Scotty Allen from the Product Bus because he does a really good program called the Startup Pit Stop. So check it out. It's literally about validating the idea.
Thank you. One last question in strategy. How do you sustain momentum after completing a program? So, okay, we get in, we do a program, it's great, accountability. How do you sustain momentum after that or build it?
Project management, if you can nail that, you've always got like the next step to do, and it'll keep you accountable to yourself, especially if you're a solo founder. And then if you also do monthly updates, that's a way to keep you accountable to your audience and to your investors.
I don't know. I feel like I struggle with that one. I think programs do, because they're an accelerator, they naturally just push you to like to your best, or like you have to work really hard. After it definitely feels less like, because we don't have to meet up like every week and do a presentation on whether we hit our goals. So I think it really depends individually what motivates you and really lean into that. Yeah.
Great. And Shirin, you also had some thoughts about building networks in programs and kind of continuing that. Did you find that builds momentum for you and other founders?
Yeah, stay in touch with them, create accountability groups, all of this, so that might help.
So stay in touch with people through your cohorts in different programs, go out, be friends, work together, build that relationship and networks?
Yeah, or even like attend co-working, sessions together, just to make sure, hey, I'm here at 10, you'll need to be there as well. So just accountability.
On that, we've got a member, I don't want to point this member out, but he's building a super awesome tool that syncs co-working. You're welcome to put your hand up. There you go, Jacob. That's you. Yeah. I'm just pointing out that I feel like so much of this is resonating with what you're working on, which is syncing co-working sessions together, understanding different people's sociabilities, and because sometimes buddying up and syncing does have better outcomes. From your experience, is that true?
Sam sort of touched on that, the serendipity of the connections that you make.
Yeah. Is it available now? Not yet?
Very buggy.
Okay.
There's a prototype available at Deep Stash.
All right, maybe we'll just put it out at a different time when it's ready and good to go. Yeah, great.
Looking forward to that demo.
Yeah.
I want to be in it. Let me experiment.
Yeah, we might actually incorporate it or test it out sometime with StartSpace members. I think many of us would really benefit from that. Thanks.
Sign up sheet, please. Can I sign today?
Yeah, speak with Jacob.
Another thing what I always find really interesting, and I apply it, is to set achievable goals. So that literally holds me accountable, and then I literally check in like, okay.
So project manage, but
Project
with achievable goals.
Yes,
and steps.
Building
Building on that, a lot of the thing that I've been doing a lot, that is a bit underrated, and I don't see a lot of other founders doing, but they should 100% do it. Does anyone here do monthly updates for their startup? Put your hand up if you do monthly updates. Not too many. Okay, so monthly updates. Okay, this is hard. Basically, you pull together a group of investors if you're looking for investment. Find people that are interested in like what you're doing or their investment remit matches your startup, and then every month, just use Substack or whatever. But you just send them a monthly update, and usually it's just very simple. It's like, here's the goal progress I made last month. Here's the goals I'm setting for next month. Here's the revenue. Here's whatever. I usually put the challenges and any asks I have for investors. That's saved my butt so many times, because often people you didn't even think were reading your updates will be like, oh, I see you having that challenge. I'll introduce you to this person. Super quick, a super hard thing to find is those investors. MLAI is trying this thing right now. So we've got this AI that's currently reaching out to like 10,000 VCs across the globe. And then it's categorizing them into like which investor does what. And then eventually, so if you're able to send us the monthly updates, then we'll just forward those on to those relevant investors. So
It's currently a work in progress.
we're still work in progress. It'll be up live probably in January, February.
Yeah.
So come see me if you want to be part of that.
also want to add, don't only do that with your investors. So Sabrina mentioned mentors, right? Update mentors, update the program managers. So I can't tell you enough how often I'm thinking, oh, which startup founder shall I invite, from my alumni to this next event? Keep us updated. It's really, really helping us as program managers as well.
Thank you. We're just quickly going to brush on personal growth and mindset before opening up to Q&As. How have you maintained motivation and self-direction through uncertainty, personally?
Oof. I feel like I'm going to still repeat my point so many times. I really think I'm very driven by mission and long-term goals. That helps me keep myself, because I hate doing things like finances. Like every time I do it, I just feel like it's so difficult. But I'm like, I just keep focused on my goal. If it helps move the needle to get to where I need to be, that's like my motivation. And because I feel like a lot of us start startups from really personal stories, I draw back to my personal story of wanting to create better outcomes for people with disabilities. And I feel like I pressure myself that people is dependent on me to do this. Like I'm the right person and only person who can solve this at scale. And I just apply that pressure myself. So I don't work through project management. I work through internal stress. And pumping things out. Yeah.
I'm like the complete opposite. So startups are this weird thing where they're both very individualistic and very emotional. In you're the founder, it's your thing, it's your baby, you're going out there to solve this problem. But at the same time, you need to buy into that, but also treat your own startup, and this can be really challenging. I made this mistake in my first startup, but don't let your identity get wrapped up in your startup. You should be able to treat it as this separate thing and look at it objectively. I'm really data driven, so I like setting experiments like, okay, I'm going to try this thing and it should get me XYZ clicks, revenue, whatever it is. And if it doesn't, I'm going to consider that a failure and then scrap it and move on to the next thing. And be data driven like that. And then it's much easier to then go in the right direction and not get kind of caught up in things. But yeah, it's so hard to have something that's your own, but also distance yourself from it. Finding that balance is really challenging.
Luckily, there's coffee and chocolate, lots of chocolate. I totally can relate to this identity crisis, because I remember when we had to pivot and everything what I created the last 3 years was just thrown out of the window. And I was like, no, what am I doing? What have I done? But to be honest, there's always a learning attached, right? So I think based on those failures, I know what to do better. And I think that's the little secret. We always need to accept that there can be mistakes, and it's actually good to do mistakes, right? So just, see it as a learning opportunity and pressure on. And don't, and that's important, because I think, and it's true, very often we are so critical about ourselves, and I have always this kind of internal fight. Shall I, for example, on LinkedIn post about it, or shall I not post about it, right? And then what might other people think about me? They think I'm an imposter or whatsoever. I know everyone, it's the founders, it's the program managers, everyone has this internal battle. Sam, do you have that as well?
Yeah.
Totally, right? Just do whatever you feel is right.
Awesome, thank you. Very last thought, everyone. What's one thought you'd like everyone in the room to leave with?
You start.
Hang on, wait. Do you have one? I wrote mine down.
Or one thing I learned the hard way about building a startup is...
There's never the right playbook. You have to find your own way.
Woo! What I wrote down was... first, when you're in the early stages, do things that don't scale. So don't be thinking so early about, I have to build this web platform to service my 60,000 users. No, just go to that customer's house, chat to them, do things that don't scale. And then one thing I learned the hard way is founders that don't rest are fools. So I would just keep whipping myself, just pushing myself to do work, but rest is work. If you don't look after yourself, then
Thank you. Yeah.
Rest it up.
Burnout is not a badge of honor. We do
That's
not
true.
work ourselves to death because we are
Hopefully not. Let's try support each other.
There's
and
also
stay
a
alive.
support, honestly, check out
Yeah.
the Australian government grant and programs page, but there is definitely support for startup founders for mental health as well.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
for free.
And Sabrina?
I think because my biggest mistake is wasting so much time, and one of them is being unsure. I think a lot of my time was wasted on not making a decision and just overthinking. So I think my message would be that you are the right person to solve the problem you're solving, and keep going.
I love that. Thank you. Round of applause for our panelists today. Thank you so much. I know that the session's supposed to finish in about 5 minutes or so, but you're welcome to stay back. You're also welcome to step up and leave if you want, but we'll open up to Q&As now. Before I do, please scan the QR codes and give us feedback before you leave. It's really important for us. I'll just put up a QR code there. Sorry, Sabrina, you're kind of in the way of it, but there's also plenty on the tables. Q&As, questions, thoughts, feedback, yep.
Thank you all for sharing your journey. You all spoke about time, which is so important. Can you just tell us the time frame from the moment you thought of the idea to where you are today? How long has that taken you?
Mine is embarrassing. I started my idea when I was a uni student, so I was second year at uni. I spent an hour a week so on my startup. I built a Google form, linked it to a map, and just like put it out on Facebook and stuff like that. And then I think it was 2 years after that I joined my first program that got me properly thinking about like I actually shouldn't try to make money out of this, like after I graduated. So I think from then, when I got my first program and I started to have early traction and revenue, that was a year and a half ago. And now, yeah, so I work, every day of the week to sustain myself.
I think it's different with every startup. My first startup was much faster. This one, I started working on it April last year. I had the idea. And then part-time while I was working at some other job, was just like seeing if it would work. And then from April last year until now it's like in the market, there's paying customers, and it's like ready for scale. But yeah, so what's that, almost 18 months or something.
And I just put myself in my founder shoes. So I had the idea when I was studying as well, then participated in pre-accelerator programs to literally validate the idea. And then I convinced my husband to work with me. And then it took us almost like half a year to get it going, to have paid customers. And then we were at that stage like, we're not really scaling here. And that's the reason where I did a lot of incognito things. But then I said, look, okay, we know where we have to go. I can't really add any value to the table here. You are the tech person, you do tech. I go and find a job. So that literally took us, or me, then 2 years.
Thank you. Questions? I'm sure some people have pressing thoughts, questions. Yep.
If you're working with, like, for example, like patient data, it's sensitive information. There's a lot of risks, regulatory risks. What would you say if you're working with if you're collaborating with people in a startup who are really pushing to get a trial going before you feel like it's ready?
Okay, so I got two things to say there. One was the first startup I did, we worked with medical data, and we probably had to we were getting a lot of pressure, but I was very paranoid about it. I was actually terrified about it. You can do things like go out and pay someone to do penetration testing. That's not too expensive. It's like somewhere between 5 and 10K. But yeah, trying to lock it down early is a thing, because the average data breach costs you like $4 million, right? It's like so dangerous. But that was in the past. These days, it's so much easier to be secure. You can get an AI to go through every element of your code base. It's not going to do it perfectly, so you're going to have to, again, reiterate and go over what it's found. but it can do a much better job than a founder can do the first time setting up all of their data security.
Thank you. Further questions?
Hi, I've seen a lot of the grants, etc., talk about relatively small amounts. So for me, 20 grand would be like so minuscule, wouldn't even get me out of the starting blocks. I'm a UXer, so thankfully I've gone so far with my product. It's being tested, it's high fidelity, it's already at a point where what I'm looking for is investment in actually building it. And it just feels like the startup community, from what I've seen, is not really designed around that level of investment. So one of the benefits over the last few years has been agentic AI, so there's such a huge reduction in cost to build this now, whereas previously it would have cost like 700,000 just to build it. And so the good news is that the cost has come down, but I'm still looking for a massive investment, and this is a hugely commercially viable product. So the strategy is very clear that it's a massive return on investment. It's very easy to cost. But that's where I'm stuck right now, is that I know this is a viable product. I have a very strong strategy. Everyone I speak to about it thinks it's great and it's going to change the way XYZ happens. But where I go to for that kind of investment that's what I'm confused about at this point.
It's tough. In Australia, the data shows that just our investors, there's fewer of them and they don't have as much money. So if you raise here, typically your valuation is about 30% less. If you need a massive round, so in medical technology, it's like you need to invest so much money and then maybe 20 years later, investors start seeing a return. B2B SaaS is like you invest and then 6 months later, you've like 10x, 100x your money. It's like ridiculous. So a lot of investors are skewed towards B2B SaaS, but there are investors for every niche, no matter where you are, like there are investors for you. For you, if you need a lot of money up front, is it like B2B SaaS? Is it like a tech solution?
It is a tech solution, but it applies to any organization who engages in digital transformation, which is to say pretty much
Every okay. For you, I would probably be thinking, if you can't raise here, then maybe internationally. UK is surprisingly good, even though the economy's not doing well. There's still a lot of rich people there. And then the US is like, there's just a lot of rich people, and then people that are just like, have no idea what they're doing, but they will just throw money at you. It's ridiculous.
Byron's also got
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what your category is, but you can look at like Breakthrough Victoria, like they do pretty large investments, and then there is also, I know there's a wall behind us, and over in the angels, you have something called angel groups. So there's quite a few in each state, and they're always a good one to reach out. If you don't have a professional pitch deck, you can pay to get a professional pitch deck created by them. They will vest it first, and if they do see it viable, post that, they will then approach the group and then put you out there, and then it's like per month. So I can speak to, I'm currently in that kind of field, so I've done self-funding prior, and we've been approved for 1.875, and we've got 2 of the 3 pools that we wanted. So like we're getting a CEO on board and they're doing investment. We're getting a private on marketing for our international growth, and we're currently getting for just our Australia division. And that is a process. Money, even though money is available and it is out there and it is in Asia and overseas and stuff, it does take time. Like we're in a 6-month journey for us, and we're also scaling down to save funding. So we've gone from 89 and we're currently scaling down to 16. And because we are using tech, we're heavily in tech. I just want to also make another note. In 2019, I got a grant from City of Melbourne. It was $100,000. I think grants are great, and when you're really in your early stage of building your team and having those co-founders, you do also need to make the decision, is that team working? And we actually stopped taking that grant because we decided as a team we weren't gelling. So just because you're in a program or you are getting a grant, don't see it as it's the end of the tunnel. If you're not working and not gelling, you can rebuild. I think having accountability is very important. So I'm a former academic for RMIT. I went through the RMIT programs. However, we applied through the social side for the MAP, so Melbourne University. Hands down, Melbourne University programs are phenomenal. Absolutely, you learn so much in a short amount of time. If you don't have someone who is from Melbourne University and you don't fall down that social group, get into a tribe, get into a team where you may be able to squeeze in an external team member who is Melbourne Uni, who is alumni. That is feasible. I have spoken to the teams over there. I don't know. There's a lot to learn around here.
That's some great tips, thank you, and congratulations on your raises. We do have a member of Safi that I'm happy to connect you with. Safi's raised about $500,000 from just equity-free grants and funding, so it's probably worth having a chat with Safi. Happy to connect you. Yep.
And I also would like to do a shout out. Will Richardson from Overnight Success did a collaboration with Notion, and he did put together resources for founders on their fundraising journey, and that includes literally a database of over 10K angels and VCs globally. So you will see how much they usually, invest, what kind of, what is it, like sectors they invest and the scope, everything. Yeah.
I agree. I think so. Will Richards has Overnight Success is a newsletter, but also has become an angel syndicate. It's a resource about VCs and funding in Australia. Great resource. So definitely check it out and follow him on Instagram.
And we're happy to share that, right, in our Slack channel?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. Questions? Yep.
Hello. I have a pretty simple question that probably requires simple answers, but I really don't know, is how do people go about finding mentors, whether it's like a free mentor or a mentor that you pay for? Because I've heard people have lots of different kinds of mentors, right? So how do you even go about finding one, or the right one? I mean, you mentioned it, like you want a mentor that asks you questions, but yeah, like within the area that you need.
I found all mine through startup programs, so communities.
Me as well, like mainly startup programs, especially because they can give you access to mentors who would normally charge, and they cover the cost for you. So that's why I've always gotten like the best mentors through programs. But sometimes it wouldn't hurt to even like LinkedIn message someone that you look up to, who you want them to be your mentor, and just ask them. A lot of people in the startup ecosystem who are founders are like love to give advice and love to help loves to help new startup founders as well.
And you could even reach out via LinkedIn. So find someone who is really a subject matter expert in your field. Write them, even cold emailing or LinkedIning them, and ask for a very quick 20-minute chat, like during their lunchtime. And very often, like people are very happy to give back. So that's what I've noticed. Everyone is really, really generous with their time, and they will always, if they can't help you themselves, like introduce you to someone.
Thank you. Jacob.
Hi, Sam, you'd mentioned that learning more about UX was like really pivotal in the way that you've grown. I'm curious what resources you use to get that knowledge.
RMIT has a UX course that was really good. Honestly, UX, the thing that I found about startups is it's just, anyone know about the double diamond? Yeah, it's like a framework for kind of like solving problems. And as a founder, you're just doing the double diamond again, over and over and over again. It's like, new problem pops up, double diamond. Got to get to the next stage, double diamond. It's just like, that's all you're doing. On different varying scales, sometimes the problems are really big and they require this really protracted double diamond approach. Sometimes it's really small and you can skip certain parts of it, but that's pretty much all it is. Probably takes 6 months to learn. Academy XI is probably the best program, and it gives you a job at the end, but it's expensive.
Awesome. Any last questions? Yep.
Maybe we can do like a short workshop around it, Sam.
We should.
Now I've gone blank. I was just wondering what your strategies are for filtering the noise. There's a lot of information to process, and a lot of channels, a lot of like Slack groups, a lot of emails. All of the different channels. How do you kind of manage that and keep on top of your knowledge management and
feel like-
comms.
I feel like my answer would be so different from yours, but I'm very intuitive. I trust my gut, and I'm very stubborn as well, which is why I have been struggling to find a co-founder. But one thing about my stubbornness is I hear something and it draws me in, and then it aligns with my long-term goals. It feels like it helps me get there. So setting clear values for me helps me a lot. For example, like I'm committed to like employing people with disabilities, and some people are like, okay, my goal is to make lots of money, then that probably wouldn't be a right decision for them because my values are different and I commit to that and I make decisions much faster once I have values.
I'm the opposite. I've got no intuition at all. An example is early in my startup journey, got this random email and it's like, oh, congratulations, you've won this, and you guys will realize you'll start getting it. It's like, you've won this business, you can be featured in this business article, or like you've invited to this awards night because you've been nominated for this award. And I was like, yeah, starting to get recognized. But yeah, there's a lot of those scams out there. I think for me, it's taken me 7 years to just start, but now I'm really good at like identifying, okay, that's crap, that might be something, yeah. But for me, it's just, you just have to slug through and get scammed multiple times.
On what basis do you identify them? Is that part of just your strategic road mapping of your startup, or just knowing yourself what you need, or maybe
I think it's more
develop
about
an intuition eventually?
You develop an intuition and you start noticing...
Maybe sources you can trust.
You start understanding resources you can trust. So for example, one big red flag, and you'll find this when you're talking for mentors, what Sabrina said, if they talk a lot and not ask you questions, and if they're constantly name dropping is a big thing, that's like often a red flag. If they talk about how much money they've got to invest in you, but then like nothing really happens, it doesn't go anywhere. For some reason, there's a lot of people that just want to waste your time. It's honestly baffling, but you start to get a good sense of what's real and what's fluff.
Just a quick follow-up. Do you have any like tech solutions for kind of funneling the information into those systems?
I wish. No.
Like a Notion database, maybe? Some list. Shireen, you're big on
If you
that.
come to me, Deanna, just be like, is this bullshit? And I'll be like, yeah.
Yeah, ask. Just ask Sam, Sabrina, Amir, or myself. Happy to give you any feedback. But honestly, I think we all burned our fingers, like we learned our lessons. So just ask and tap into the experience and knowledge of others.
I feel like one thing that I get a lot that I used to entertain a lot, which is just LinkedIn messages around coffee chats. And I used to just go because I feel like helping out. But I feel like unless there's a clear value to you on like how you get out of that conversation or your time, then that's the only reason you should go if there's value.
So this is a whole other kettle of fish as well, but investors, there's this whole other strategy around that as well, because investors, most of them, I'm going to say 80% are good-natured, but there are sometimes they'll have a coffee with you just to like maybe get information about how you're doing things to help one of their portfolio companies, or maybe like they're just constantly having coffee with you just to keep tabs on you. There's a lot of these other like kind of time-wasty things as well that you need to be wary of around investment. Again, that's so hard to learn, but understanding how they think and what their KPIs are can help you with that too.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's such a great question, because part of what we do here in StartSpace, part of our decision making is often that thing of there's a lot of noise even in the startup ecosystem, lots of events and networking. It could get a bit disruptive, but also get a bit distracting. So that's part of really what we do, especially Shireen and I in here, is try and design programs, whether it's members breakfast, lunch and learn, other events that have key takeaways and value that you need, that we see it as you investing your time in us and to be in this room, and how can you walk away with key takeaways. I think establishing trust and understanding who, attending events, testing, trialing, see what works, what doesn't for you. Yeah.
I have to do one kind of shout out for ourselves, Amir.
Yeah.
Flip the pitch. The startup ecosystem presents to you. Sam pitched this year in May, and it's coming back next year. So that's literally the whole aim of the event, right? So we acknowledge that there is a lot of support for early stage founders available in Victoria, but often we don't know about it. So that's the reason why we bring 20 of those supporters on the stage, and they pitch their offerings in 3 minutes to you, early stage founders. So it's happening again again next year, 26th of May. You will hear about it very soon. But yeah, just a shameless
The first
plug.
one that we did was sold out. It was great. There was VCs, angels, communities, government. It was really good. Is anyone in the room, did anyone go to Flip the Pitch? Fresh faces, maybe next one.
Super quick. There's two things. One, if you are looking for a hackathon, there's one coming up on the 29th. That's going to be a really big one. If you need a co-founder, come to that. Or you just need cash, there'll be cash prizes. Number two, MLA is running an event. This is for people that are maybe a bit further along, but there's something that we've learned recently where you can basically use AI to kind of hack your way onto page one of Google to just like automate all of your SEO and AEO, which is like ChatGPT showing your business up in search. So we're offering, there's a session on the 6th of December. We're just going to give you the code and be like, here's how you get it to work with your own company. And then in a couple of months, you'll see your business is on page one. So not trying to tout it. They're very cheap programs. So just come find me if you're interested in those.
Right, thank you. Thanks everyone for coming in. That really wraps up the session. So again, a round of applause to our panelists, but also to you for coming in today. Very quick updates from us. So our members' breakfast coming up on the 4th of December is featuring Antler, a global venture capital firm. Antler is doing a session on how to secure VC funding in 2026, lessons from recent Antler cohorts. So that's the first time Antler does an event like this, and we're super excited for it. There's a few QR codes in the space. But I'll also put this up. You're welcome to scan this QR code. And we have the StartSpace Celebrates event, which is our end of year celebration. It's just a time for us to come together, celebrate each other, the community. We're going to be talking about successes coming out of StartSpace this past year, what we did, but also looking forward to the year ahead and announcing some really exciting programs that we're launching next year. So definitely come in. We provide food, drinks, and we just want you to mingle, have fun, but also connect with people in the ecosystem that we'll be inviting. There's a QR code for this on the left side of this pin board. Otherwise, we'll send you all the comms via newsletters, Slack, and in the space. And now I'd just like to invite everyone to just take a minute, scan the QR code, give us your feedback before you go. Thank you again.